Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is Shaelene and today I'm going to be filming my November wrap-up. Now, this isn't in my normal filming spot. I'm filming this video so last minute. I'm not going to have time to sit down and actually film with my camera, so I'm filming on my laptop right now. Like, the sun's going down. It's going to be probably some terrible lighting in a bit. And also next time you see me, this hair will be short. I desperately need to get my hair cut right now. Like, it's down to my butt. Like, this is all my hair. It's so long. Yeah, so that needs to be cut. It's a mess today. Just forewarning for when you see me next time and you're shocked that I have short hair. Anyways, let's just jump into the November wrap-up. So in November, I actually read a lot of library books. Like, most of my reading came from the library this month. So one of the first books I read was Radium Girls, The Dark Story of America's Shining Women by Kate Moore. And oh my god. So this is basically about radium colloquial painters in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. Radium was this kind of miracle substance. It wasn't very safe, and at this time some people knew that it wasn't safe. Other people touted it as this medical cure. It can make you younger, it can make you thinner, it can make you happier, like you'll glow and blah blah blah. Like, there was a lot of medical benefits touted for this, but it wasn't meant to be ingested, pretty much. So this book follows the lives of multiple women in two separate towns who work at radium watch dial factories, painting on the itty bitty numbers on watches with radium. These women begin to experience truly horrifying and debilitating and excruciating symptoms. This book is really about women's rights, about health, and workers' rights, workplace injury, and corrupt and greedy corporations, and it's just about the horrific, inhuman suffering and injustices that these women face. This book overall horrified me. I will never forget the description. One woman, she painted at the factory for years. She had all these medical problems, and usually the radium manifests itself first in the jaw, because when the women paint on the radium, they have to dip the brush, which isn't a very good pointed brush, into the radium powder, and then they stick it in their mouth. They use their lips to point the end of the brush, and then they paint. So they're constantly ingesting the radium all the time, and so typically it manifests in the jaw first. And this one woman had horrific tooth pain. Basically all her teeth just started falling out, and she went to the doctor to she went to the dentist to get something done about this. And when the dentist is prodding around her gums and her jaw and whatnot, a piece of her jaw literally comes out. It was the most horrifying thing I've ever read, and I've read a lot of horrifying things, and it's just, oh my god, it was just, yeah, it was shocking, it was horrid. Like, can't get any worse than that. So yeah, the research I will say about this book is absolutely phenomenal. This woman who wrote this book dedicated so much time to the research on these women, and in this time period, like, it's just crazy. You're so immersed in the story. I definitely, like, binge read this in 3 days. It was so good. This is just a phenomenal nonfiction book, and I was really, struck by it, and it really, it gets at you. So I gave this 5 stars. I highly recommend, if you're a lover of nonfiction, to give this a read, because it is so good. And also, I would say that this is a book, if any nonfiction book could be made into a miniseries, this book needs to be made into a miniseries because we need to know stories like this. And I think it's a very underlooked story in not only American history, but basically history in general, pretty much. So, yeah. The next book I read was a physical library book. I read Meddling Kids by Edgar Cantero, and oh my god, so this is basically a Scooby-Doo kind of reimagining, retelling, and I loved every single second of this book. Oh my god. So you guys, I am a huge, and I mean huge, Scooby-Doo fan. I watched Scooby-Doo my entire life growing up. My sister and I were just huge Scooby fanatics. We have every single Scooby-Doo movie. We have every single Scooby-Doo TV show that's been made. We know our Scooby-Doo and we love our Scooby-Doo. And this book was everything that I wanted it to be. It was so good. So basically, it's following the same formula as the original Scooby-Doo. You got 4 kids and a dog. Except now something happened on the last case that they worked, and they believe that there wasn't just a regular guy in a mask like they normally catch, going on. So this is a bit more of a twist to it, and it's a bit more supernatural, but I don't think it was overly supernatural. And anyways, so one of the members of the gang is actually dead. One of them's in a mental institution, and 2 of them are kind of separated. They haven't talked in years, but this final case, this last case they worked on together, is just bugging them, and so they decide to go back to the town that they all used to summer vacation in, and finally solve the mystery, because it has left them deeply disturbed. So, oh my god. I can't critique a single thing about this book. It has LGBTQ representation, mental health representation, amazing strong women. It was just so good. It was so good. And the mystery is so good. It's so good. Like, words aren't coming to me. Like, how do you critique perfection, pretty much? Like, how? I would love to see a second book in this series. This did come out, like, I think 2018, 2017 maybe. So I don't think there's going to be a second book, but I would die for a second book because I thought this was incredible. It was everything that I ever wanted from a Scooby-Doo reimagining. It was amazing. I loved it. Like, it's 5 stars. It's like one of my favorite YA books of the year. Easily. One of my favorite horror books of the year. One of my favorite fantasy, supernatural-ish books kind of year. It was so good. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. So the next book that I picked up was Into the Planet, My Life as a Cave Diver by Jill Heinerth. This is about a woman. I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. It's basically recounting her life as being a cave diver, a female cave diver, which is kind of rare. Usually it's men that do all the cave diving and, kind of stuff like that. So, I have always been fascinated with diving and cave diving, especially. Like, it's just so interesting to me, and I love watching cave diving videos on YouTube. It's so weird. It's such a weird specific thing that I like, but I love it, and I'm in awe by it, and it's terrifying, but also exhilarating to watch. So this book was equally terrifying, but also exhilarating to read. Like, it's quite heart-pounding. This woman, she's actually Canadian, which I just, I love. I love Canadians, obviously. And she recounts her time being a cave diver and how she got into cave diving, which she got into cave diving pretty late in her life, yeah, it's just an incredible journey that she goes on to all these incredible places, and oh my god, it's amazing. And she also faced so many physical setbacks from diving itself. Like, at one point, she was told that she should never dive again because she had the bends pretty bad and they don't know what would happen if she ever dived again. But of course, when you love something, you still do it again regardless of the risk. I loved this book, especially about the part where she was talking about being one of the first people to dive in an iceberg. Like, with icebergs, you get water erosion, and so there are ice caves, and it's incredibly, incredibly dangerous, but they dived in an iceberg cave, and it was crazy. I gave this book a 4-star. I really enjoyed it, and I went online afterwards, and of course I googled everything about Jill Heinerth, and I watched some of her diving videos. She's actually the Canadian Geographic explorer for I think diving here in Canada, especially in Newfoundland and stuff. So I think that's so cool. She's an ambassador. It's really amazing. Women Talking by Miriam Toews. So this is the story of a bunch of Mennonite women. Basically, women are being drugged with the type of drugs that they would usually use to knock out animals, to do veterinarian surgeries on them. They're being drugged with these drugs, and then they're being raped by a gang of men. They wake up and they're sore, and the people in the Mennonite community blame it on the devil and evil spirits. And these women, they're smarter than these men think they are, and they begin to realize that no, it's not the devil, it's not evil spirits, it's the men in the community that are raping these women. And it's not just women, they're young girls they're raping, even little girls. These men are charged for their crimes, and they are taken to the city and they're put in jail. And then the men from the community go to the city and they try to break these men out of the jail, post bail for them, and they're going to bring them home. And so while the men are gone, these women decide to get together, have a meeting, and decide what they're going to do to protect their girls. Are they going to stay and put up with the men, or are they going to abandon these men, leave, and make their own community? So that's kind of the whole gist of the story, which is actually based on a true story. And man, this was such a very captivating read. I will tell you that now. These women are put in incredibly complex and dangerous situations, and I couldn't even imagine facing what these women would have to face. It's incredible. Throughout the entire novel, these women debate these things. They all have these discussions on what to do, the pros of leaving, the cons of leaving, and the pros of staying and the cons of staying. And it's a very tough discussion that these women must have had. I will say, though, that some of the debates that these women have do come a bit repetitive, they do come a bit redundant, and at times they were long-winded and a bit annoying to read. But yeah, my heart really aches for these women, and I think this is a really great feminist read. It was really good, and I gave it 3.5 stars. Okay, and the last book that I read this month is I'll Be Gone in the Dark, One Woman's Search for the Golden State Killer by Michelle McNamara. This is also the only physical book I have in my collection that I read this month. Golden State Killer or the East Area Rapist, is easily one of the most horrific serial killers, serial rapists that has happened in America. And he went uncatched / unsolved for so long until last year. So it was interesting to see Michelle write this book, and of course this is very much from an investigator's perspective, and it was done in a way where the victim wasn't re-victimized and all this sort of stuff. So Michelle has written an incredibly detailed and harrowing account of all these crimes that have been committed during the 70s and the 80s, and it's just horrifying. It astounds me that this guy went uncaught for so long, and it was interesting to see his methodologies that he used to commit these crimes, and it was just fascinating and intense, but ultimately horrific. I guess reading this book now, it's even more interesting now that we know who the Golden State Killer actually is. And and how close investigators truly were to pinning this guy down just based on profiling. So yeah, I gave this a 4 stars. I really enjoyed reading it, and I'm really sad that Michelle died while writing this book and trying to complete it, and she did not get to know the true identity of the Golden State Killer. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, then go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I will have all my links to my Instagram, my Goodreads, and my Twitter all listed in the description below. Go ahead and follow me there, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye!